Hello and welcome, everyone. The start of season 3 of the Mana Drain Vintage League. We took a short hiatus for season 2. There were some problems with scheduling and a bunch of other stuff, so we've just pushed all that aside. We had our finals, which we streamed recently, and we've taken on a bunch of new people who can make the time commitment. So we've revamped our roster a little bit, and we've added 4 new players. And so, just to give us a better standing of where we are right now, we're going to go through everyone who's competing this week. We'll go through our 5 matches. Our 5th match is actually going to be a bit special because it's just going to be me, because we have Tom here helping me out with the commentaries. We've tried to find our other commentator.
Hey,
And so I guess we could start at the top with you, because you're a competitor.
I am a competitor. I made the finals last year, and as always, I'm looking to improve and take it down this year. Me and Brian played a pretty fun set of 5. But yeah, I'm a notable Northeast vintage player. I travel between New York, New Jersey, and PA on a regular basis. I usually bring a car with me, and I'm known for playing a lot of off the radar decks or interesting interactions. I brewed a few myself. My friends Lance Ballister and Matt Murray have helped me from time to time putting together some other decks. Like the one I'm most famous for recently is Stasis, but most of that work was Lance Ballister's. He gave me the list. I just did a couple of things at the last minute, like I put in Time Vault and I tweaked a little thing. And then ever since that event, I ended up cutting the Sarkin Unbrokens for Tezzeret in the deck. And now with Oaths of Nissa, maybe we'll see a Stasis resurgence coming up in the near future.
The aptly named Green Ponder that no one wants to call Green Ponder.
Yeah, I mean that card's really great for Stasis specifically. Like the fact that it gets you a Planeswalker, a land, and it fixes your mana for your Planeswalkers. It does everything the deck wants. The only thing that's not great about it is that it costs 1. And at first you're like, oh, it costs 1, that's great, it's cheap, it's easy, you put it into play. But it opens you up to Mental Misstep, and the reason why I chose to play the deck and why I thought it was really good was that it pretty much dodged the Misstep fight completely. It played Soul Ring, Mana Vault, and Ancestral. And once you open yourself up to Misstep, you kind of have to play it, or you have to just accept that your 1-drops are going to get countered by Mental Misstep. And it changes where the deck goes. So I'm still working on making it what I want it to be. Spoiler, I'm not playing it tonight. It may get shown sometime during this league. I definitely like the deck a lot.
So, the next couple people, because I know them and could make the introduction a little better. We have 2 people now that are from the top 8 of last year's Vintage Champs. Of course, everyone knows Brian Kelly, 2-time champion, hopefully not 3-time champion, if one of y'all can dethrone him. So, Brian, probably the best way to describe him is he does his own thing because that's what works best for him. Typing out his deck list tonight, I was a bit frustrated because of how much reformatting I had to do. Because all the 1-ofs he plays, with no tutors, by the way. He doesn't play tutors.
So just have it, right? That's the Brian Kelly School of Magic, is why play a tutor when you could just have it.
Brian Kelly's School of Magic is one ancient grudge in every deck.
That card's really good against a lot of things. It's actually, I think, underplayed. It's a card I usually play 1 main 2 board in a lot of my older decks. It's backbreaking against Shop, and it really does a lot of hidden work in the blue matchup, and it can perform for you if you use your own artifacts against Null Rods or in other spots where like you don't think that Ancient Grudge is one of those cards that's going to buy you, but it's a 2-for-1. And like 2-for-1s can get a lot of distance if you play them right.
People throw away multiple cards in their hands to fight a 3-for-1. A 2-for-1 that's 2 pieces of the same card is pretty good, I'd say. And then the other player we actually got Sullivan Brophy in for us. Dredge, master, connoisseur, guy who likes to hang out with dead people.
Yeah, so Sullivan's actually a buddy of mine. He was introduced to me by Nick DeJohn, who's another vintage player from New Jersey. I met Sullivan at EE2. He was playing Manaless Dredge in Legacy Shock, and he and I were at the top tables, and we were talking throughout the day. And then the next day he showed up for Vintage, and I knew what was going to be happening. And he did very well again. And he's been pushing the dredge archetype harder than a lot of people have, and certainly I would say the hardest this year. He came up with a lot of technology, Barbarian Ring to kill Containment Priest, uncounterable, and to fix the shop matchup, and provide red mana for your Ingot Shearer. Like it just that was such a great piece of technology that was all Sullivan. Um, finding Dragon Lord Kolaghan, it's just a better clock than Flamekin Zealot, and it has flying, so it dodges Moat, which has become like a technology piece. Like even Magus of the Moat's been circling around, and like Kolaghan just flies over and kills you. So there's like a lot of little things that he's found. We worked in a Riftstone portal. My big contribution to Dredge over the past 2 years or so has been Serenity. I was pushing this card really hard, and it's come out of the woodworks. People are playing Serenity and Dredge. It started to get picked up into
Mentor plays it.
Yeah, like anything that can support white now, it's just like putting Serenities in the sideboard. The card's just so broken, and it hits so many different matchups. Obviously, it's a great card against Shop. It's really good against the Hangerback Walker Shop decks.
Yeah.
Like unless they have Hangerback Walker, it's just lights out. Like you can't use Ravager correctly or in an effective way. It just really is a really hard card to deal with. So that was my big push. Serenity 2 years ago was in no sideboards in Dredge if you look at top eights, and then now there's 4 in almost every list.
Yeah, it's
Go ahead.
it's really taken off, and I was kind of surprised that I actually owned some when I first saw it popping up, because it seems so innocuous, but when you think about it, for what you want to do, it does everything. Plus, for what it's worth, you can Enlighten Tutor for it. Enlighten Tutor for a Shatterstorm, plus what's the card? The 3 and 2 white, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Purify.
That sounds right.
Forgot the name, but two mana for that effect that most people get. Waiting and upkeep usually doesn't matter because people don't really pack as much enchantment removal as they do artifact removal. So that crack is definitely pretty awesome. And another person.
Also, what it does also is it gets stacked effects. So for a very long time, they would like put down multiple cages against you, like 2, 3 cages, and so it got really, really tough to deal with that because you can't cast reliably 3 or 4 Nature's Claims or Ingot Shearers or anything like that. And if you get rid of your 1-drops in the form of Nature's Claim, you play better around Mental Misstep. Again, remember I was saying before about Stasis? The whole point of me playing Stasis was to play away from Mental Misstep. And I can confirm it is Purify. I just double-checked it. So Stasis was playing around 1. I did the same thing with Dredge. I made Dredge immune to Mental Misstep. Why did I do that? Because Delver is really good at playing the Misstep game. So if you avoid the Misstep fight completely, you just say, okay, your Missteps are going to be dead cards. You've basically, again, made them discard down or mulligan, and they don't even realize it sometimes. I had Dredge player go force pitch Ancestral, hold Misstep in case I had Nature's Claim for his hate piece, and I just didn't play any Nature's Claims. He just totally threw away his Ancestral, thinking his Misstep was valuable in the matchup. Because if you look back, very notable players will tell you Misstep is great Dredge hate. It blows my mind. Like Menendian has a bunch of articles about it. Mahr's even talked about it at one point. And there was a time when that was true, when Dredge was playing Chain of Vapor, Nature's Claim, and a slew of other 1 CMC spells. But between Ingot Shearer, Wismare, and now Serenity, you almost don't play any. And the creature's kill spell went from Dark Blast to Barbarian Ring, which is in the land. So it just totally changes the complexion of the deck and what it's doing. Sullivan in my Dredge build, it's mostly Sullivan's, but I'll take some credit for it. That's pretty slow compared to like Sun Titan Faith that you Dredge, and with Storm picking up and some other things happening, it may come that we have to speed up our deck or play something a little different. We saw the taste of that with Randy Bueller. If you were watching the Vintage Super League at all, Randy's now playing White Ley Lines in his Dredge deck, which
everyone's playing White Ley Lines now. The shop decks have been playing them too. Everyone's just been packing White Ley Line from what I've seen.
Sure, but like the Dredge decks can do it a lot easier. They have free space, and they're not even trying to cast it, although they can. with between Riftstone Portal, which Sullivan and I are playing, Caracas, which Sullivan and I are playing, and Undiscovered Paradise Mana Confluence all cast Leylands, whether they're white or black. And the blacks are easier because we typically have Dakmor Salvage and/or Urborg or Cabal Pit or something like that. We have a couple of different builds. We haven't unleashed the black based ones yet, but it's the Dredge is going to have to change if Storm stays a big player in the modern metagame. Like the lists that we play that Sullivan made famous last year at Nice 3 and Worlds, that deck has a really tough Storm matchup. It's not good for the deck. It's winnable, but it's really just a race.
Yeah, it's a race where your disruption is just Cabal Therapy. So,
Yeah.
and most of the time you don't cast the Cabal Therapy, you flash it back. So you have to burn a Cabal Therapy to get an idea, and then burn another Cabal Therapy to get what's good. And then again, like, Storm can just beat 2 Cabal Therapies. It's not really that tough.
You have to be on point with your therapies, and also in that particular matchup, game 1 you should be favored because they don't have too much hate. So unless they turn 1 or turn 2 you should win quickly. But in games 2 and 3 they tend to have 4 to 8 pieces of hate for you depending on how varied they are, and that makes it very difficult to win reliably. And so you definitely don't throw away your therapies to bizarre activations. Like in game 1, especially if you don't know, but therapy is one of the first cards because it's your real creature maker. But it gets tough. Yeah. So Sullivan's pointing out in chat, and he's correct, that Leyline of the Void is a great card. It turns off Dark Petition. It turns off Yawgmoth's Will. So like we have game. We're not out of the world dead, but we don't have any counter spells. We can't stop their rituals. Storm is favorable and they're faster than our builds. Now, I have a list with Unmask, which has a much better Storm matchup. I have a list with Unmask and White Leyline, which has again an improved Storm matchup. So like it all depends on what you do to combat what. Vintage is in a really fun place right now. Aside from Gush kind of monopolizing or homogenizing the blue decks together, there's a lot of varied decisions you have to make in your decks, and like what the last 5 to 10 cards are in your build will determine your matchup percentages in all your other matchups. And like that's always true, but it feels more true now. Like those last couple of cards matter so much.
And a commentator turned player, Matthew Murray, I would say most famously made us care about Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Nobody believed him right away, and he has 3 of the San Diego Comic-Con ones, which he probably got for about the 9th of what they're worth right now. I don't know.
Hey, he got them cheap. But Matt's always been on the edge of exploration, which is something I really like about him. He's not afraid to try new cards. Remember I said before I have a very high threshold of what the card needs to do for it to be considered awesome or playable. Matt will try a card at the bottom and figure out how to make it get to that point, whereas I'm usually a little bit more fast at dismissing. He got me to try Keranos, God of Storms.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. But like I played him 2 years ago at the Waterbury, and I went Cavern of Souls, God, Keranos of Storms onto a Delver player, and he was just like, I can't beat that card. I can't do anything to that. And I was like, yeah, and you also can't counter it, so let me go to the next game. A friend of mine, Chris Pankowitz, we were playing in that tournament, he opens up with Land Lotus, Pyromancer, Delver of Secrets, Preordain, which is like, for that deck, is one of the best possible hands. And I opened up with Mox, Lotus, Cavern of Souls, God, Keranos. My Keranos flips Engineered Explosives, so I bolted his Pyromancer, and he flipped his Delver, of course, because he preordained to set it up. And I popped EE on 0 and wiped his board, and he thought he had one of the best draws, and I just had the perfect foil and setup. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, so Keranos is a card Matt got me to try. Matt put together a lot of my lists over the past 2 years. I've moved, and I've sold out a few times to buy a house. And so Matt really helped me get through that by providing me with deck lists. He's a really interesting innovator, and he pushes a lot of the envelope he does a lot of his work on MTGO, so he's getting used to the cockatrice interface a bit more with our league.
Yeah, we have a couple people that are new to cockatrice. We're being uh, a lot nicer when it comes to misclicks
Yeah,
and misdraws, and we'll tell them how to undo draw, like that sort of thing. There are a lot of shortcuts for it. It is manual. Cockatrice is a manual program, which makes it nice for dumb stuff can't happen, but also makes it so you need to know rulings and you need to do everything properly, and you can mess up.
yeah. So we'll keep an eye out in the beginning for everybody, but the plan should be to get everyone going. And Matt's one of the tightest players I know, so I don't think he's going to have an issue with that too much. But Matt's someone to look out for. We were saying before someone to dethrone Brian. Matt Murray has a very good win percentage against Brian Kelly. Matt's the Dragon Slayer. I was teasing everybody last year when I was playing Brian in the finals that I would slay the dragon, but Matt's well known for doing that.
And then we also have what do we want to do next? We do Keith Grimm next.
Sure.
Here's our new player.
So he's actually Keith Seals. He's a famous. He won Nice 2, which is his big hallmark win. He was pretty lucky to do that. That's a little shout out to you, Keith. But he won a very big tournament. It was over 100 players, and he's like me in a way where he can play anything. Keith plays Shops. He won that event on Shops. Keith plays Oath. Keith plays Delver. Keith plays Dredge, and he has a gorgeous collection. Everything is either foil or beta. It's amazing. He's a really great guy. He and I spent a lot of time together. We bonded over the past 2 years, and he has a wonderful family, newly married. So I can't wait to see what Keith does. He's actually my opponent tonight, which is interesting. Again, he's like one of my closest friends right now, and of course we kick it off. I'm playing Keith, but at least we'll get out of the way early.
Yeah, knock each other out of contention should be a little harder to do.
Yeah. The great thing about this season's lineup is that I know every single one of these players personally. They're all friends of mine, and it's people who I would love to just hang out with. So
Yeah,
no matter what happens, I'm gonna be happy.
yeah, we really got like some of the best players from the Northeast.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But if you look at the world standings over the past 7 years, the Northeast has dominated. We have the most vintage events per month. We have the most vintage events per year, and we are sharp and on top of the metagame. So having the top players of the Northeast is having the top players in the world, I'd say.
That's true. You get a couple more people to get interested. And then JP Kohler.
So JP Kohler is a longtime shop player. I think it was 2 years ago now, at Worlds, he decided that shop was getting old and boring and traded all his shop stuff for blue stuff. And he's been doing good with blue. He could pick up shop again on a whim. He's got a wide range as well. He did a lot of innovation. He built a white stacks list, or white shops list. I think it was a year and a half ago or 2.5 years ago. That did very well with Stoneforge Mystic and and Flagstones of Trocaire and a lot of really interesting pieces. Dahlia.
Armageddon?
Solid. No, Armageddon costs too much between the spheres and whatnot, and it's not artifact based. But it was a really good deck. I really enjoyed a lot of his brews. I used to drive JP around a lot to events when I lived on Long Island. Me, him, and Mickey were a car for a solid year or so.
That's Mickey Mahr, who's also a competitor.
Who's also in
Nice
the list.
segue.
Mickey is Mickey is a shop specialist. He's tried to play blue a few times in testing, but I don't think he's ever sleeved up not shop for a vintage event. He is of the players here, I think he's the newest vintage, maybe Sullivan. But Mickey's only been playing for about 3 years vintage, and he has a slew of results on the upper end that speaks to his process and his talent. Mickey has won or top forward many events. He's slain people who have been playing for years, and quite honestly, if he didn't have a few awkward moments in the beginning of his playing time, he probably would have done better. He had a couple of run-ins with famous players who use the rules or their perception of the rules to their advantage.
Hmm.
Knocked Mickey out of contention of a few events that he probably could have won. Mickey got revenge later on.
And Josh, I'm gonna let you say it.
Josh Potucek?
Josh Potucek.
Yeah, so Josh is actually the most famous land still player of the last 10 years. There was a run, I believe, that Josh won 4 consecutive events in a row on blue red splashing green land still. Uh, and he's won many events in between before and after, but he had a run of dominance. I want to say it was 2009 or 2010 that he was definitely at the top of the pedestal, and people were getting slain by him left and right. He did a lot of interesting things. He got me. I think it was him who found engineered explosives as a way to combat the spheres in shop, because what you do is you announce it for 0, and then you get sphered up to 2 or 3, and you pay the sunburst to put it on 2. And so you basically dodge the spheres, and then you wipe them all out, and now your free counter magic just annihilates the matchup. He did a lot of work like that. His deck was really good. I took a list, made a couple of minute changes, and I put a lot of work in with that. And then I think it was a year or two later, I made the Stifle Still deck list. And the Stifle Still was in many ways rooted in Josh's deck, but it was a new thing altogether between Dak Faden and Stifle. It was 8 different cards, and there was a bunch of other little things in that deck that changed. Like I played Rolling Earthquake as an answer to Delver and Merfolk. There's a lot of fun things that happened, but Josh is well known for his standstill play. He also invented Simeon's Mom. That's what he calls the deck, because it plays Mother of Runes and Simeon's Spirit Guide. But it's basically red, white, hate bears. And he put up a lot of results with that deck. And then he had an interesting Shops Brew that he played a couple of months back. And he was a former Storm pilot who hasn't really played it much since. But he's got a wide range. He's most known for being a blue-red X control player. That's his sweet spot, but he can step out of that. So metagaming for him is difficult.
He's also a fantastic tattoo artist.
He is. He's a wonderful tattoo artist. Actually, he did my tat here.
Is it in a presentable spot, or?
It's on my rib cage. I probably don't want to flash everyone my stomach with. But that's
If you want to look up on the Mana Drain, he does make posts with some of his work, and it is gorgeous. Like, it's ridiculous. And he plays in events, people know him. Of course, he's not going to give you like the side eye, like, what kind of tattoo? He's like, oh hell yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, no, he does a lot of really good work. He does a lot of freehand drawing, which is good. And my wife and I have matching tattoos. It was for our son, and so Josh did them for us, and he did a really good job. I would recommend him if you're interested in a tattoo and you either need help with your design or you just know what you want. But Josh will do a great job. Hey, listen, Josh, we'll always give the shout out to people who deserve it. Josh.
If you have a site or something you want to link for anyone in the Northeast, feel free to. I don't mind. And then we have the creator of the league, Matthew Gottshall, who's going to be our first match, the Battle of the Mats.
Yeah, so we have Gottshall. Gottshall had been in a leadership role of the league, and if you hadn't noticed, everybody, we're now sponsored by Card Titan, and so in order to make sure we have everything above board and in competitive integrity, Sam has taken over that leadership role, and Matt has stepped down from that and just taken to being a hard-on player. No additional role for him, but he's a competent player. He's most known for playing Dredge and Shops. He had a little flirtation with Merfolk, but for the most part, that's his cup of tea or what he's known for.
And very last person on our list, Sean Ottaway. Did we go over Sean?
We did not go over Sean yet.
Sean Ottaway will be our 10th player.
Sean Ottaway is an old school player, and by old school I just mean he's been playing since like Alpha Beta, like way back in the day. He took a very long break and came back somewhat recently. As long as I've known Sean, he's played broken combo decks. That's been his game. They vary from all over. Although the last time he played Blue Moon, which it's kind of a combo-y deck, but it's really more of a control deck. And so that was a little different from Sean. But I typically see him playing fast-paced combo decks. The year one when I played him in the league, he played Oath. Year two in the league, he played Storm. That's against me. I don't remember all of his lists. But he's been around combo for a while, and he's a high quality, competent player.
So it looks like it's almost 9 Eastern time, so we're going to take a quick break as we get the match start up, and then we're going to have match 1, Battle of the Mats.
Yes.